I would never want to make a connection between myself going into hospital to have a minor cosmetic surgical procedure and Meghan Markle, because there is no link between someone going into hospital for a minor surgical procedure, like a nose job, or Meghan Markle, because there's no link between those two things, is there, Kinsey, ever?
No, absolutely not. But what are you getting at?
No, I'm just trying to get on to Meghan Markle, you see, that's all.
Okay. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss something.
And as we know, she looks quite different to how she used to. The front page of today's Mail has got this wonderful new adjective, markled. That's how you can describe something being markled. It's also a verb as well, isn't it? To be markled. You know, I markled, you markled, they markled, we markled.
Who markled, yes.
Yes, it's a verb. What does being markled mean?
Well, so the Daily Mail describes this as being cut off from somebody and being, you know, burning a bridge and not having access to Meghan anymore. But this is something that's been trending on Twitter for years now. And the definition of it on Twitter is aligning yourself with Meghan Markle and then seeing your brand fail or your product fail because you've associated yourself with Meghan Markle.
Oh.
So according to Twitter, being markled is I'm trying to think of an exact, well, okay, so for instance, when Serena Williams, one of her event planners had reached out to somebody asking for a free photo booth for Serena's gender reveal event. And then they received so many negative headlines or a negative reaction about this specific request. You're a millionaire. Why do you need a free anything? And so the internet's reaction was Serena was markled. So
it's taking. So I guess Bud Light, that would be a good example of markling themselves. They had a successful brand. They used the transgender model. Everyone stopped buying it. So to commercially destroy yourself is to be markled.
Correct, but usually Meghan Markle is somehow associated with
it. So it's not crossed over to just being a general verb about anything. You can't say, oh my word, that brand completely ruined themselves. That is being markled.
I mean, you could be the one that starts the trend, but yeah, it's typically associated with Meghan. But in this particular story, because I read it, they suggest that markled is Meghan cutting you off, Meghan no longer being your friend, and her distancing herself from that person or a couple in this case.
You see, I thought that being markled would be that you get ditched by, again, not necessarily Meghan herself, but it's just a general verb to describe being ditched by someone close to you because their ruthless ambition means that you're no longer useful to them. That's how I would describe being markled.
That is definitely going to end up on YouTube.
But no, it's true. That's genuinely what I thought. That if I were to say to you, if I were to come on the show next weekend and say, look, unfortunately, Kinsey's not on anymore. She's been doing so much Jeremy Kyle live. She doesn't want to do me anymore. I've been markled by her. She's moved on to bigger and better things. She's no use for me anymore. She's markled me. That would be, I think, the perfect description of being markled.
I mean, well, first of all, I'd just like to say that I do plenty of push-ups so that if there was a fire, I could rescue both you and Jeremy Kyle at the same time, throwing you both over one of my shoulders. Wow. I love you equally.
Those are strong shoulders.
That's a really good description. And I do think that that's a fair description. The Daily Mail's reporting that Meghan is no longer associating with Victoria and David Beckham. And Cristo, this is an old story. I mean, don't you remember? I actually think that Tom Bauer writes about this in Revenge, if I'm correct. you know. Um, Meghan accused Victoria of leaking where she was getting her hair done because Victoria was the one that suggested the hairdresser. It was a mutual friend. So Harry actually reached out to David and said, did Victoria leak to the press where Meghan was getting her hair done? They were both very offended by it, and they did a little internal investigation and found out that it was like the secretary, the girl that answered the phone at the hair salon that ultimately leaked it, or something like that.
I mean,
but
that's absolutely... Victoria Beckham may be many things, but this idea that she's going to be ringing like a tabloid newspaper to say, "Oh, guess where Meghan Markle gets her hair done?" I would argue that the Beckhams are sort of on a par with the Markles when it comes to their fame.
I agree. So apparently it really hurt David and Victoria Beckham, and it's my understanding that they distanced themselves first and realized pretty quickly that their allegiance needed to be with the royal family, because the royal family, has a brand that's not going away, has a mystique that's not going away, and that was that if they were going to align themselves with anyone, it was going to be with this 1,000-year-old institution
let's also remember
fails.
as well that David Beckham is desperate for a knighthood. He would do anything. He'd sell Cruz, the one that really doesn't do anything. Is it Cruz that doesn't do anything? Romeo is playing football. Harper's probably too young. Brooklyn's married into all that money. So Cruz is probably the disposable one. I think he'd sell Cruz Beckham for a knighthood, because he's desperate to be Sir David Beckham, absolutely desperate. And actually, I think that there's no way it's going to happen, because the royal family don't like that kind of desperation. And I think, though, that he realised what side his bread was buttered on, and if he was if there was a risk of him being Team Markle, that knighthood was never going to happen.
Well, I think we should refer to him only as Sir David Beckham from now on, solely based on that intel you just gave me that I find fascinating. So, yeah, that's what this story is. And then the Daily Mail goes on to list some of Meghan's new friends and list some of the other people that she has distanced herself from or no longer has relationships with. And the Obamas, are interestingly on that list of people that no longer really associate with Harry and Meghan or speak up for them. So that was pretty interesting. And then Gloria Steinem is listed as somebody that is still in her corner. Gail and Oprah still listed in her corner. But kind of a cool list of recent events, giving us who's in, who's out. Markled is the term that they're using. But realistically, I think the Beckhams were gone long ago because of this silly little hair exchange.
David Beckham was accused of begging for a knighthood. I mean, he has actually been accused of begging for a knighthood with some of the tributes that he posted. But also, I've got a feeling...
How sweet he was to stand in line to see, like you, he queued for the Queen. That was absolutely adorable. God bless him.
Yeah, but there was some sort of... story a year or two ago where apparently David Beckham... There was some sort of email exposed or something happened where it was revealed that he was absolutely furious. From back in 2017, there were some leaked emails showing that Beckham was furious with the decision to omit his name from the honours list. He was alleged to have branded the honours committee unappreciative. Let's just say that Next Tuesday was involved, and insisted he didn't care about being knighted. He was also, apparently, he wrote, that I expected nothing less. It's a disgrace, to be honest. If I was American, I would have got something like this 10 years ago. And he was also furious that Catherine Jenkins got an OBE. Now, this is all alleged. Let's be honest about that. But, of course, in the context of all of that, there is no way that they are going to hang out with Meghan and Harry too much, because they know that that's going to mean that they're kissing goodbye to their knighthoods.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. But we have heard over the years that story about the hair incident is really where you saw them really start to part ways, because they could not believe that they were accused of leaking stories about Meghan. They were apparently very welcoming to her when she entered the picture, and kind to her and encouraging to her. So they were hurt by the accusations.
Well, let's be honest, they weren't going to be leaking stories on Harry's hair, were they? Yeah, that would have been a very short conversation. OK, let's talk about a couple of the other royal stories of the week. Now, this is more of Diana's... Are there any more Diana secrets that we could possibly have revealed?
I know. Okay, so do you remember Dr. James Colehurst, who was the middleman between Diana and Andrew Morton when he was writing Diana, Her True Story?
Right.
Diana would do these interviews with James, her dear friend. He would get on a bicycle and bike these tapes over to Andrew Morton. One time, he almost got hit by a bus and the tapes went flying everywhere. Imagine if somebody stumbled on one of those mysteriously. Well, he says that there are 6 additional hours that we've never heard before. He had worked with Tom Jennings, an American Emmy-winning, award-winning filmmaker here in the States, on Diana, like I think it's In Her Own Words, which is a documentary that came out not too long ago.
Yes.
They're doing 2 new documentaries. I don't think James is involved in the King Charles documentary, but one on Diana where she discusses her family. She goes into her relationship with Rain, who you'll remember she very famously referred to as Acid Rain.
Yes.
They were growing up.
Spencer. She had the most phenomenal hair. I mean, she took back combing. I mean, if she'd started back combing in London, it would have ended in Brighton.
And they were best friends towards the end of Diana's life, but they did clash when Diana was a young woman. And remember, it was at Earl Spencer's first wedding. Now Earl Spencer, her brother, at his first wedding, Diana shoved Rain down the stairs. Remember that? So apparently this is going to delve into some of Diana's relationships with members of her family. But then Tom Jennings is doing another documentary about King Charles. He said he's got an hour of footage that is just the king being hilarious, that this man could have been a comedian, that he is so quirky and funny in the footage that he has of him. I know I'm interested in seeing it too. Have you seen him in his younger videos where he's on stage? He is very funny, but this filmmaker, Tom Jennings, says that he thinks that the king's going to radically change the monarchy, and said he wouldn't be surprised if within the next 5 years you actually hear the king making political speeches, which I don't think anybody wants. I don't think that's true. Oh, I mean, I hope not. But he's going to be making these 2 new documentaries. That's Eden Confidential. That is our source for that. But I don't necessarily know how I feel about it, because it's hard to critique and criticize Harry for spilling family secrets when, there's so many examples of his mother doing the same thing, who I adore.
We could do a whole hour, he says, of Charles the comedian, mentioning in particular a scene in which the future king wrestles with bagpipes. There's no way to talk about Queen Camilla, and has a conversation with them. I love Camilla. You know I love Camilla. It's like Monty Python. It's off the charts. I mean, talking about Queen Camilla, of course, how's she going to feel? I mean, she must roll her eyes every time someone says, right, we're going to drag out yet more footage of Diana.
I thought the exact same thing. I thought, wouldn't it be more appropriate to say I have created a documentary on the king and the queen consort, and okay, I have this great stuff on Diana. The Diana stuff is going to sell. He knows that, because that previous Diana documentary, In Her Own Words, was a smash hit. But I did feel like it was a little odd to be like, yes, we're going to be producing this one on the king and we're producing this one on Diana. Where does Queen Consort fit into it?
And how do Diana's children feel about any of that as well? So you have to ask. But then again, I've got to ask you this question, Kinsey. If you were sitting on secret Diana tapes that had never been revealed, what would you do with them?
I am the worst at keeping secrets. I have a really big secret about Taylor Swift and Selena Gomez that I have not told anybody, and I really am amazed at
Oh,
myself.
well, tell us.
No, I'm not
No,
going to do
just
it.
tell us. Go
I'm
on.
not going to do it. I'm not. I will tell you over text message after this conversation. But I am really bad at keeping secrets, so absolutely, I would struggle
But
to hold on.
would you not want to do the right thing and be honourable and say, you know what, I may have these tapes, but I'm going to keep them quiet in order to keep Diana's memory sacred?
I feel like Diana's memory, yes, should stay sacred, but I also feel like there is still so much mystery surrounding her, to the point where people have, created this character that might not necessarily be the truth in their minds about her, and getting to the truth is a really exciting thought.
So basically, you'd take the money. Yet you're justifying it as, I want to see that Diana is a multifaceted person and that, you know, she's three-dimensional. And I think it's really important that the world sees that everyone
I will
knows the
say
real
that
her.
if it were me right now, what I would do is I would not be releasing it right now. I don't feel like it's the appropriate time with the Harry chaos, and with this being, just truly the very beginning of the king's new reign. Allow the king to show us what he's capable of doing.
All right. So you'd set off a bidding war.
You are crazy, Cristo.
I mean, look, you only do what I do. I'm telling you now. I mean, I'm saying myself that, we should let her rest in peace. If I had those tapes, I tell you now, I would sell them for the highest amount of money I possibly could, and I would do anything I could to try and get everything I could out of them. So I'm full of the proverbial when it comes to that. Now, question for you, Kinsey. Roger says, could you ask Kinsey why, in her opinion, Harry hasn't gone down the hair transplant route, seeing that he lives in the state where looks do matter? What do you think?
Why has he not? I just think that it's normal to them. They grew up with men that had bald heads, and it was normal. And they were handsome, and they were strong and brave and disciplined and, respected. And I just don't think that it really bothers either.
I just think that they're absolutely, now that we know that they will sell themselves to literally do anything. I mean, we are expecting them to be advertising dog food in the next couple of weeks. I honestly think Prince Harry is a tagline for an advert that is yet to be written. And he absolutely should be advertising hair transplants, advertising anything he can. I mean, that's his level now.
We had discussed this on the Majesty podcast, Harry's hair.
Harry's hair. Absolutely, Harry's hair pieces. We thought that there could be a hair piece for him as well. And we did also, again, discuss Meghan intimate wipes, Arca wipes.
Yeah, that happened.
It did happen. I think I've never known you so quiet as to when I was coming up with those little marketing ploys. I have to be honest. Okay, so let's do one more story. What's the other story you want to do? You either got William and Kate or King Charles, I should say, and Prince Andrew.
Well, I think that I can do them both in 60 seconds.
All right,
or
go
less.
on then.
Right. Well, so in the States, Page 6 has written a really interesting article that says that William and Catherine, the Prince and Princess of Wales, are trying to structure their brand like the Kennedys, which I don't disagree with, but I don't necessarily agree with it either. The idea of Camelot and the chicness, the sophistication of the young, powerful couple, these leaders, and then their beautiful children, and that I don't think that that's in any way, shape, or form what the Prince and Princess of Wales are attempting to do. But I think it's a lovely comparison. I think the
Kennedys are the nearest that you Americans will ever get to royalty. Let's be honest.
It's true, although they are just plagued by scandal and
tragedy. Yeah. So I don't know whether I would love that comparison myself. It's like, well, tragedy, assassinations, the worst luck in the world. Yay, what a comparison. All right.
And then Michael Cole, really quickly, Michael Cole has said to Sky News Australia that King Charles never liked Prince Andrew. I was like, okay, well, that's nice.
Well, in the Crown, and I know that this is not the sort of Bible of it all, but they really don't get along, do they?
In the Crown, no. I mean, but also there was a significant age difference, so I don't know when they were supposed to. They were just on completely different paths. The king, not associated with the crown, but in real life, the king had a responsibility that Prince Andrew would never, knew was never going to be his reality, even though he joked about it. And I just think that Andrew got a lot more positive attention from the Queen and had a different demeanor, and maybe the king didn't really appreciate it or relate.
The king is probably quite bitter because he was 11 years older, and the late Queen Elizabeth and King Charles, as he was the then Prince Charles, had a very strained relationship at times because she was very stoic. She wasn't overly emotional towards him, whereas to Andrew, she liked Andrew.
They were lovey. Yeah, she adored him. But yeah, so this is just Michael Cole saying that there would not be a lot of sympathy from the king as Prince Andrew navigates where he might live in the future, because he really never cared for him to begin with. So he's not concerned about it.
All right, listen, always good to get the update from you. We'll be recording this week yet another Majesty podcast, but for now, that is Kinsey Schofield, who, of course, she's off air now. She has been officially markled by us. That's it.